Alrighty, so I have done some substantial cleanup of this area. It looks a lot better. The server is now down there, and it does not have any inputs and it does not have a monitor. However, this is where we use this computer to connect to it. So, if it wants to focus, what we do, this is what I've set it up to do, is I've set up a share here called ToRender, and this is located on the other computer. I can also access the other computer using the remote desktop, which I can connect to the IP, and as you can see, I'm just monitoring the computer with ID64. I need to buy a license for it, so I can tell how hard it's going to work in the utilization. Here is the same folder on the actual system, and down here is the Adobe Media Encoder, which I have set up a watch folder that will transcode to H.264 6 megabytes per second, no, megabits per second, between 6 megabits per second and 12 megabits per second, which I find quite good. This will reduce the size of the whole video a lot, and reducing the strain on my actual system when editing videos in 4K. So I'm going to do a live test of 100 gigabytes of new footage, and that's going to go straight across into the ToRender. It should transfer at gigabit speeds, so that would be around 100 megabytes per second. Faster the better. As you can see, it's being transferred across, and if we swap over to the other system, we can see that it's putting stuff in queue to be rendered and is rendering them down here. And as you can see, the the system is being put under load and the temperatures are going up. So I'm just going to test what's going on, see if we're getting thermal throttling, stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure why there's a secondary thing there. I think that might be because it's overlaying two different processes in one, but the main one is the one that's being utilized. It doesn't seem to be getting utilized as much as I thought it would. It's supposed to be 100% all the time, so this could be to do with either poor optimization, or it could be thermal throttling. But I've observed thermal throttling before, and it doesn't constantly go up and down, especially on this processor. And it doesn't thermal throttle unless it gets to around 80 degrees Celsius, and at the moment it's only about 50. So I doubt it's thermal throttling. There might be some other bottleneck happening, and now that I think about it, it might be the transferring of these files here that's causing the throttling, because it can't export it fast enough, as in since it's using all of the hard drives, like as you can see, the disk right here. Since it's using 100% all the time when copying files, it might make it difficult for it to render, and then make it difficult for it to use 100% of its processing power. A way to fix that is, of course, have a SSD. However, at the moment, I do not have the funds for such thing. I was I might think about upgrading SSD in my personal computer, swapping that SSD into the server, and then it will do a much better job and hopefully won't have this issue. However, it's still doing its job and it's not crashing, it's not overheating, it will be doing its job just fine. It's gotta go through the hundreds of gigs and then passing out to, so if we hop back on to the other computer, so my personal one, you can see it's still still transferring everything. And if we go over to, oh, actually I haven't, yeah, that is my fault, I have not set that up. Let's go back to the other computer. If we go to the AME rendered to sort file, here is all the rendered videos that we have, and they're going to be much lower in megabytes. Well, they're nowhere near gigabytes anymore, however they're still retaining the same amount of detail and fidelity as it was taken. So, well, almost. Of course we're going to lose stuff when you get compressed, however it's pretty much indistinguishable. Okay, don't say that word. Basically you can't tell the difference. And I've tried to tell the difference with all different types, and I preferred this setup, and it's much better in my opinion to have it rendered like this if you have such thing as a extra amount of processing power called the server. And this will just offload any type of processing power that you need. So if I had a look at the processing of this computer, as you can see, it's basically using nothing, and so that it leaves this computer free to edit videos or play games or whatever I want to do in the meantime while the other computer's doing all the hard work of rendering. This computer will still render the final project because one, it's easier, and two, it's faster because the personal computer is faster than the server, which is odd, but I prefer it that way. So this is going to continue to copy forever. So when setting up the server with the switch over here, so this switch, going a million miles an hour, the gigabit switch, I have number 1 going to the personal computer, and number 2 going to this, well, number 5 going to the server. It was kind of annoying to set up because first of all the computers didn't see each other at all, and second of all the server didn't have the drivers to run the Ethernet. So I had to go find them because it's a special gaming board which I'm using as a server, which I don't suggest people to do, but as long as it works. But it was a special gaming board which needed a special driver to run the actual Ethernet killer networks stuff. So I had to go find that and transfer that over to this computer because this server does not have internet. It just is connected to the personal computer over there. So download everything there, chuck it on this one, finally got that working, finally got it connected, and tried to ping it, didn't work. Turns out it was the Windows firewall that was stopping it from working. So yeah, shenanigans. They will always happen when you're working on computers. But yeah, so that's the general gist of the whole network server rendering thingy, and that's all set up. I'm really glad that I got set up. It seems to be doing its job. It's It may not be perfect right now, but I can perfect it later. So yeah, it seems to be a issue with the disc not being able to keep up. Yeah, just not being able to keep up with demand. As you can see, the Ethernet is able to go at 1 gigabit per second, and however, the disk is only able to go, well, it's reading and writing about 100 megabytes per second. So almost the same, and it should be the same. However, it's just getting bottlenecked. This is why everyone now says that you should have a SSD in a server, or to use as a buffer, because this happens and the CPU can't do anything. It also looks like the media encoder is having a very hard time finishing off its render for each one. It says done, but it has to cut off. So as long as it works and as long as it does its thing and slowly gets there, I won't mind. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and hopefully you like the full rendered, well, not rendered, scripted portion of this. Thanks for watching.